The city of Abuja was just waking up. Vendors opening stalls, traffic already growing thick, and the sun heating the air before it even rose. Zuri MBA stood in front of her gold-framed mirror, staring at her own reflection with a face that had forgotten how to feel. Her black designer suit hugged her body perfectly, heels sharp enough to kill. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her lips were painted in a shade called power. She was going to the office, not because she wanted to, but because it was expected. She was the only daughter of Chief Judeo Mba, a man whose name could buy or bury anyone in Nigeria with a single phone call. He didn't raise her to be soft, he raised her to dominate. And Zuri had learned early, don't cry, don't trust, don't break. The maid entered quietly. Madam, your car is ready. Zuri nodded without looking. Tell Daniel not to talk today. I'm not in the mood, as. She walked out of the mansion. The heat hit her first, then the noise, then him. At the corner of their private estate gate, bent over with a broom in his hand, was a young man in a street cleaner uniform. His shirt was dirty, sleeves rolled, and he wore black boots covered in dust. But he didn't move like the others. He wasn't hunched or lazy. Every motion was precise, like a man who didn't belong in the dirt but understood it. Zuri paused for a second. He didn't even look at her, just kept sweeping, focused, calm. She narrowed her eyes. New staff. The guard standing near the gate cleared his throat. No, madam, just government cleaner. Comes every 2 days. Zuri tilted her head. Something about him felt out of place. His back was too straight, his presence too grounded. She turned to enter her car, but for the first time in months, her mind didn't focus on meetings or marketing budgets. It stayed on the boy with the broom. That evening, after 12 hours of boardroom talks, investor calls, and fake laughter at an elite business cocktail, Zuri returned home drained. She took off her heels and sat by the large living room window. Below, Abuja was glowing in orange dusk, but something was still wrong inside her chest. That same emptiness. And then she saw him again, still sweeping, still silent, still there. He looked up this time, and their eyes met. Just for a moment, long enough to plant a question in her mind that refused to leave. Who is he? The next morning, Zuri tried to act like she didn't notice him. She got dressed sharp and fast like always. Black heels, crisp blouse, diamond studs. She sat in the car, phone in hand, pretending to scroll. But her eyes, they flicked up the second the gate rolled open. He was there again. Same spot, same broom. But this time, he paused. He leaned against the long wooden handle and looked straight at her through the tinted window like he could see through the glass, through her expensive clothes, through the version of her that the world worshipped. For a second, she almost told the driver to stop, but she didn't. At work, she tried to bury herself in numbers, meetings, meaningless buzzwords. One guy in marketing tried to flirt with her. She shut him down in a single sentence that made him avoid eye contact the rest of the day. Still, her mind kept returning to that face, that street cleaner with too much calm in his eyes. Later that week, she returned from a press interview and told Daniel to take the long way home. Let's go past the bridge, she said, even though it made no sense. He looked at her through the mirror. Yes, madam. When they reached the estate again, her eyes searched the gate. This time, he wasn't sweeping. He was sitting under a tree nearby, drinking sachet water, head bowed like he was praying or thinking, or both. Zuri got out. No warning, no shoes, no plan. She walked barefoot to where he sat. You're always here, she said. He looked up slowly, not startled, not nervous, just calm. Streets don't clean themselves. You're not from here, she said, and you're not used to being ignored. She blinked. He smiled slightly. You've looked at me every morning since Monday, and you remember that? She asked. I remember patterns. It's a habit. What are you, a cleaner or a psychologist? Bit of both. She stared at him, arms crossed. What's your name? Tari, he said, standing slowly. He was taller than she expected, taller than any man she'd been close to lately. And you? He asked. You already know, she replied. He nodded. Zuri, the girl in the glass tower. That hit her. Hard, something in her chest twisted. You think you know me? Tari shrugged. No, but I think you don't know yourself either. That pissed her off. But not in the usual way. Not the how dare you way she dealt with rich brats and slimy businessmen. This felt different. You talk too much for a street boy, she said, and you listen too much for a rich girl. They stood there, two strangers, one in silk, the other in dust, but the space between them suddenly felt electric. She turned to leave, but before she walked off, she said, See you tomorrow, broom boy. And for the first time, he smiled. Wide. Looking forward to it, glass tower. The next morning, Zuri didn't even wait for the car to warm up. She walked barefoot again, down the marble stairs of her mansion, out past the confused guard, and straight toward the gate, toward you. Himtari was already there, sweeping slowly like always, like the world wasn't spinning around them. But this time when she approached, he paused before she said a word. You're early, he said without looking up. I didn't sleep, she replied. Tari looked up at her, his eyes searching her face. Nightmares? Memories. He nodded. Once, then leaned on his broom like he had all the time in the world. Want to sit? She hesitated, then sat on the edge of the gutter, pulling her knees to her chest. Her crisp white outfit touched the cement and she didn't care. Not today. Tari sat beside her. I used to think I knew who I was, she said suddenly. Daughter of a billionaire, future CEO, perfect product of a perfect empire. And now? He asked. Now I feel like a prisoner wearing designer. Tari didn't say anything. He let the silence settle between them like a warm cloth. Then, he said, sometimes you gotta break the glass to breathe. She looked at him. What's your story? She asked. He shrugged. I sweep roads. I eat when I can. I read old books. I think too much. That's not a story, that's a summary. You want pain, he said, finally turning to her. Everyone's got pain, but not everyone turns it into gold. Zuri looked away. You talk like you've lived 1,000 lives. Maybe I have. She didn't know what it was about him. The way he never tried to impress. The way he never asked for anything. The way he could say so little, yet say everything. No man had ever made her feel this grounded. Do you have a phone? She asked. No, he replied. She smirked. Of course not. I live different. She stood. Well, if you ever want to keep talking, you'll need one. Maybe I will, he said, still seated. She turned, her heels clicking on the cement now, sharp and loud. Tomorrow? She asked. Always, he replied. That night, Zuri lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She thought about the way he looked at her, like she wasn't Zuri Mba, but just Zuri. A woman, a person, a soul with cracks. No man had ever seen her like that. Not the suit-wearing sons of the elite, not the Ivy League boyfriends, not the executives who bowed in meetings but feared her father more than they respected her. Just him. The boy with a broom and eyes that saw too much. She didn't know who he was. But she knew one thing, she wasn't done with him yet. Abuha has a way of whispering before it screams. By the end of the week, people had started to notice. Not her family, not her staff, but the streets, the drivers, the maids, the gatemen, the ones who always watched but were never seen, and they had seen Zuri laughing, talking, sitting beside the street cleaner boy at the gate. Some said she was bored. Some said she was going mad. One bold driver even said, that girl is either about to lose everything or find something the rest of us will never touch. Zuri didn't care. That morning she brought him tea, hot, in a paper cup. She handed it to him without a word, and they sat on the same low cement edge near the gutter like it was their throne. You're different today, he said. How? Your silence feels louder. Zuri took a sip of her own tea. My dad thinks I'm too soft to lead the company. Tari tilted his head. Because you don't yell like him? Because I don't bark orders like a god. Because I asked too many questions. Because I said we should build houses for staff instead of buying another jet." He chuckled softly. "Sounds like you're the only sane one." She looked at him, then away. "What if I don't want it?" "What? The company, the pressure, the legacy?" "Then don't take it." She blinked. "It's not that easy." "Why not?" "Because the world doesn't understand women who walk away from power." Tari leaned back, his hands gripping the old broom loosely. "Let them misunderstand you." Zuri stared at him like he was speaking another language. "You make it sound easy," she muttered. "I make it sound free," he replied. And for a few minutes they just sat in silence. The morning buzz filled the air. Buses honking, generators, rumbling, life happening around them. But it felt like they were somewhere else. Just two people. No names, no noise. Then a car drove past. Inside, her cousin Ifunanya. Eyes wide, jaw dropped, phone already in hand. Zuri saw her, and for the first time she didn't look away. Tari noticed. "Trouble?" She exhaled slowly. "Family," he didn't ask more. But later that night the storm came. Chief Judea Mba barged into the living room, voice thunder. "You've been seen with a street cleaner? Outside the gate? Laughing like a schoolgirl?" Zuri stood her ground. "His name is Tari. I don't give a damn if his name is Jesus. You are not going to embarrass this family with some roadside dust boy." "I'm not embarrassing the family," she said coldly. "I'm exposing its sickness." His eyes flared. "You think this is love?" he roared. "He wants your name, your money, your power." "No," she said. "He doesn't even have a phone." And with that she walked past him, leaving her father stunned in his own palace. Back. In his room, Tari sat alone, staring at the moon through a cracked window. He knew it wouldn't stay quiet for long. The world was coming, and with it, the moment he'd been dreading. The next morning Zuri didn't bring tea, she didn't show up at all. Tari swept the same pavement, slow and deliberate. But every few seconds his eyes flicked toward the gate, expecting her, needing her, but she never came. By noon he had already figured it out. Someone got to her, probably her father. Maybe the cousin. Maybe some elite family friend who reminded her that a MBA girl didn't flirt with filth. He wiped sweat off his forehead and leaned on the broom like it was holding up the pieces of his life. He hadn't meant for it to go this far. He wasn't supposed to catch feelings. He wasn't supposed to look at her the way he did. He was supposed to observe, study, gather, not feel. But Zuri Mba had undone him in silence. She didn't know he was the founder and CEO of a quietly rising startup worth over 700 million naira. She didn't know his name was whispered in investor rooms from Mao, Lagos to Cape Town. She didn't know that 3 weeks ago he had been scheduled to speak at a tech summit but canceled because he met her. She didn't know that the dust on his shoes was a choice, and now he didn't know if he could keep lying. Meanwhile, Zuri sat on her bedroom floor, lights off, phone screen glowing. Her father had frozen her credit card, revoked her office access, and suggested she fly to Dubai to cool off and forget about the street boy. She said no. He responded by canceling her upcoming brand partnership launch and locking down her press interviews. Punishment for disrespect. She stared at her phone, her thumb hovering over Tari's contact, the one she created even though he never gave her a number, just in case he ever called. But he wouldn't, because he didn't have a damn phone. She threw the device aside and stood. This time, she wouldn't ask for permission. This time, she'd speak on her own terms. The next morning, while the city buzzed like normal, she walked through the gate, past the guards, dressed in jeans and a plain tee. No driver. No heels, no makeup, just Zuri. Tari was there as always, sweeping. He looked up, she didn't say anything. Just stood there watching him, angry and quiet. "You didn't come yesterday," he said. "My father came instead," she replied. He leaned on the broom, unreadable. "What did he say?" "That I'm destroying the family, that you're using me." "And you?" he asked softly. "I told him that if he keeps choking me with this legacy, I'll burn the whole empire down." Tari let out a low whistle. You're brave. No, she said. I'm tired. They stood there, eyes locked. Then she asked, Why are you always here, Tari? Why this job? You're too smart for this. He paused, thought carefully, and for the first time, he almost told her, but instead he said, Sometimes you have to live low to see what's really high. Zuri stared at him. That's not an answer. He smiled sadly. It's the only one I can give right now. She shook her head and backed away. Then maybe I was wrong about you. And she walked off. But what she didn't see was this. As she disappeared into the distance, Tari reached into his pocket and pulled out a slim, silent phone, the one he never used, around her. And on its screen was a message. Your 30-day undercover report is due, Mr. Tari Ajayi. The MBA family is now under public observation. Awaiting final move. Tari exhaled hard. The game was almost over. But his heart? That was the part he never planned for. Zuri couldn't sleep. Her mind was trapped between fury and confusion, her chest tight with something worse than heartbreak. Doubt. Tari had held her gaze with warmth, but behind that warmth was something hidden, something he wouldn't say. And now that silence screamed louder than any lie. She needed to know who he really was. The next day, she paid a driver and 20,000 cash to follow Tari after his street shift ended. He usually leaves around 11, she said. Don't let him see you. I want to know where he goes. The man nodded. Done, madam. By nightfall, the driver sent a message. He didn't go home. He entered an office complex in Woos 2. Security let him in without question. Zuri blinked. A street cleaner got past Woos 2 corporate security? She called back immediately. What building? Ajayi Tower, madam. That new tech company one with tinted windows and guards in suits. Her blood ran cold. Did you catch the name of the office? The driver paused. Yes, one paper said Zuna Systems. Zuri's heart stopped. Zuna Systems, the tech company her father had been trying to partner with for months, the one whose CEO refused to take his calls, the one rising from nowhere. Young, mysterious, and smart enough to scare the old money crowd. No, it couldn't be. But deep down, she already knew. The next morning, she showed up at that same building. No appointment, no disguise. She wore black from head to toe like a woman headed to war. The receptionist stood the moment she entered. Excuse me, ma'am, do you have an appointment? Tell your CEO Zuri Emba is here. Silence. The woman hesitated, then picked up the phone. 2 minutes later, the elevator doors opened. Zuri stepped in. At the top floor, everything was glass and steel. Clean, quiet, cold. She pushed open the CEO's door, and there he was, Tari, standing, in a tailored navy blue suit, hair trimmed. No broom, no dust, no lie left to hide behind. He turned slowly. Their eyes locked. Zuri didn't speak. Her chest rose and fell like a ticking bomb. Then she whispered, So, you've been playing me since day one. Tari's voice was low. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. She took a step forward. You followed me. You studied me. What was I? A test? A report? He looked away. At first, yes. She laughed, broken and bitter. You're the CEO of Zuna Systems, and you were sweeping dust at my father's gate like a damn actor. I needed to understand the MBA. Legacy from the ground level, my board sent me. It was meant to be silent, strategic, but then I started talking to you. She spat. And I forgot the mission, he said, finally looking at her. I forgot everything except you. Her hands trembled. I let you in, she said. I told you things I've never said out loud. And you stood there with dirt on your boots and a plan in your back pocket. Tari took a step forward. I fell in love with you, Zuri. No, she whispered. You fell in love with access. He shook his head. That's not true. Then why didn't you tell me? Because I knew the second I did, I'd lose you. Tears burned in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. You already did. She turned and walked out of the office without another word. Tari stood there, silent, watching her leave. The girl who once called him Broom Boy now saw him as nothing more than a stranger in a suit. Zuri didn't speak to anyone for 2 days. She ignored her father, her staff, her cousin's nosy calls. She sat in her room with the curtains closed, phone off, mind racing. The worst part wasn't the lie. It was how real it all had felt. The laughter, the silences, the way he looked at her like she wasn't trapped under her last name. And now, it all felt poisoned. But the world didn't stop spinning just because her heart had crashed. The whispers started the very next morning. A leaked internal memo from Zuna Systems hit the business blogs. CEO Tari Ajayi's undercover investigation into the MBA family has concluded. Public-facing strategy TBA. Zuri stared at the headline, numb. Her phone rang. Chief GDO4. Shi Wei Ab. Picked up. I warned you, his voice boomed. He was spying. He wanted intel, access, you. Now look. The whole city knows. Do you know how this makes us look? Like the truth finally came out, she said quietly. He paused. Are you working with him? She said nothing. Don't be foolish. If you protect that man, you bury your name, our empire, everything we've built. Zuri laughed bitterly. You mean everything you built off the backs of people like him? You're angry because he played you at your own game. You're blinded, he hissed. By some street boy in a suit. He's a man, she snapped, and he's more honest in rags than half the men you've handed contracts to in tuxedos. She hung up. That night, there was a knock at her private balcony door. She opened it without looking. Tari stood there, soaked from the rain, his breath heavy, eyes tired. I know I shouldn't be here, he said, then leave. I will, he said, but not without saying this. She folded her arms, said nothing. I didn't plan for you. I planned for strategy, for data, for numbers. I came to break your father's arrogance. And you broke me instead, she whispered. Tari swallowed hard. I told them I'm walking away from the report, from everything. I don't care about Zuna anymore. I care about you. She blinked, caught off guard. What? I'm resigning. She stepped back. You'd throw your company away? I'd throw anything away that makes you look at me like I'm poison. She turned her face. Her voice shook. Do you know what you did to me? Yes, he said, stepping forward, and I hate myself for it. The rain outside grew heavier. They stood in silence, water dripping from his jacket, her heart pounding louder than the thunder outside. I didn't want to fall for you, Zuri, but you showed me something I hadn't seen in years. A soul that still wanted truth. You reminded me why I started everything in the first place, tears welled in her eyes. And what do we do now? He reached into his pocket and placed something on the table between them. A ring. Not flashy, not gold, just a simple band of silver. I bought it the day you called me Broom Boy and still came back to talk. She stared at it. I don't expect forgiveness, he said. But I had to give you truth finally. No masks, no plans, just me. Then he turned and walked out into the rain again. Zuri stood there, alone, staring at the ring. And for the first time since this all began, she didn't know whether her next step would be revenge or redemption. 3 days passed. Zuri didn't leave her room, not for the press, not for her father's last warning, not even for the rising firestorm online as people debated her name, her choices, and the scandal tied to Tari Ajayi. The city was chewing on the drama. A billionaire's daughter, a CEO in disguise. A love that may have been real or may have been a strategy. But inside her 4 walls, Zuri was quiet. No makeup, no heels, no performance, just herself. And that small silver ring sitting on her table like it was watching her. The next morning, she stood in front of the mirror and dressed herself. Not like a MBA, not like a socialite. She wore a plain brown wrapper skirt, flat slippers, and a white top with no label. She walked outside without an escort, flagged a taxi, and told the driver where to go. Zuna Systems headquarters, she said. Tari stood at the front entrance talking to a board member. His eyes met hers the moment she stepped out of the cab. He blinked, thought it was a vision. She walked straight to him, heart pounding, mouth dry. The board member whispered, "Is that?" "Yes," Tari said. "It is." They stared at each other, surrounded by suits and noise. But time felt frozen. "I didn't." "Come for your company?" she said. "I don't have it anymore." She blinked. "You really resigned?" He nodded. "Left everything. I told them I'm done using people to chase power. I meant it." "Good," she whispered. "Because I didn't come here for the CEO." He stared. She stepped closer. "I came for the street cleaner." For a second, Tari couldn't breathe. Zuri pulled something from her pocket. The silver ring. "I hated you," she said, tears in her eyes. "Then I missed you. Then I realized I never saw you as a lie. I saw you as a mirror. And I was scared of the reflection." Tari swallowed hard. "Do you forgive me?" "No," she said honestly. "But I'm ready to begin something new. No lies, no tests, just truth." He took her hand slowly. "Truth," he repeated. And in the middle of a corporate battlefield, in front of flashing cameras and stunned staff, a girl once known for diamonds slipped on a simple silver ring and smiled. Not because she won. Not because he begged, but because two broken people finally chose to start real. Not rich girl, not CEO, just Zuri and Tari. 3 days passed. Zuri didn't leave her room. Not for the press. Not for her father's last warning. Not even for the rising firestorm online as people debated her name, her choices, and the scandal tied to Tari Ajayi. The city was chewing on the drama. A billionaire's daughter, a CEO in disguise, a love that may have been real or may have been a strategy. But inside her four walls, Zuri was quiet. No makeup, no heels, no performance, just herself, and that small silver ring sitting on her table like it was watching her. The next morning, she stood in front of the mirror and dressed herself. Not like a MBA, not like a socialite. She wore a plain brown wrapper skirt, flat slippers, and a white top with no label. She walked outside without an escort, flagged a taxi, and told the driver where to go. Zuna Systems headquarters, she said. Tari stood at the front entrance talking to a board member. His eyes met hers the moment she stepped out of the cab. He blinked, thought it was a vision. She walked straight to him, heart pounding, mouth dry. The board member whispered, "Is that?" "Yes," Tari said. "It is." They stared at each other, surrounded by suits and noise. But time felt frozen. "I didn't." "Come for your company?" she said. "I don't have it anymore." She blinked. "You really resigned?" He nodded. "Left everything. I told them I'm done using people to chase power. I meant it." "Good," she whispered. "Because I didn't come here for the CEO." He stared. She stepped closer. "I came for the street cleaner." For a second, Tari couldn't breathe. Zuri pulled something from her pocket. The silver ring. "I hated you," she said, tears in her eyes. "Then I missed you. Then I realized I never saw you as a lie. I saw you as a mirror. And I was scared of the reflection." Tari swallowed hard. "Do you forgive me?" "No," she said honestly. "But I'm ready to begin something new. No lies, no tests, just truth." He took her hand slowly. "Truth," he repeated. And in the middle of a corporate battlefield, in front of flashing cameras and stunned staff, a girl once known for diamonds slipped on a simple silver ring and smiled. Not because she won. Not because he begged, but because two broken people finally chose to start real. Not rich girl, not CEO, just Zuri and Tari.